Hello everyone, I am Vijay, your instructor for IBM Bluemix for Cloud Apps Development class. Yeah, so this is the introduction. So objectives of this session would be to actually get introduced, get familiarized with Bluemix and understand its architecture, see how we can weigh the advantages, pros and cons of Bluemix, if I would say that, and the CLI to push the applications to Bluemix. Okay. Now, introduction to Bluemix. What is Bluemix? Bluemix is actually a wrapper on top of Cloud Foundry. It is an offering for open cloud architecture, and which that enables developers to use the runtime provided by Bluemix, use the infrastructure provided by Bluemix, and just use their own, or rather worry about only their part of data and application to be hosted on Bluemix. So what are we doing here? We are leveraging the services and the runtime that IBM provides through or exposes through Bluemix, and along with the Cloud Foundry open stack that is that comes default with Cloud Foundry offering as an open source provider. IBM has many more offerings clubbed on top of using or exposed using Bluemix. So we will go through those services and their runtimes and understand them a bit. Okay, so how does it help a developer? It certainly reduces the time to create or provision an application on cloud, and you don't have to really worry about the storage and storage resources, bandwidth, or deployment of the application. And you really don't need to worry about the number of CPUs that you need or the RAM or the hardware part of it. So from a developer's perspective, it is just deploy the application, work on the application, push the application on Bluemix, and let Bluemix take control of the runtime and the staging of the application. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So these are some pointers why we would need Bluemix and what are the advantages that we get using Bluemix. It's certainly speed, which actually gets into picture when we deploy the application directly into the runtime without really caring about installation and configuration of that runtime. The runtime is made available to you through Bluemix, and you just deploy your application, which enables faster development and deployment both. And then you can actually scale up and scale down your applications as the need arises. So without worrying about the resources that you may need, that part is left to the Bluemix services. So that actually takes us to the next point, which is operational efficiency, right? So scaling of the environments and transforming legacy environments to a platform, right? So it is both adaptable and extensible in that approach. So these are no different than what you would find with Cloud Foundry in general. So predictability comes when you actually have an application deployed and you really want to scale up and scale it down depending on the usage of the application. It actually gives you a nice view of the use of your application resources, and then based on that use you can actually define times when the number of applications apps need to be scaled up or number of apps need to be scaled down during a particular period of time. So that means that you are certainly reducing the risk of the application not being available for a particular tenure, at the same time making sure that your costs go down because you will not be overusing the resources or overcommitting to use the resources for your application. So in a gist, what are the advantages? What are the various advantages? Continuous availability. You don't have to worry about the runtime being available all 24/7 to you. It is available, and IBM team takes care of making it available for you. It actually allows you to have an optimized workload depending on whether you really need multiple applications for your multiple copies of your application to be running at a particular instant of time, or do you want to scale it down? So elasticity is controlled that way. There are ways that you can actually manage your applications and its associated services. So it actually you can use the Bluemix UI to manage your services and applications very well. it is a complete environment based on open standards, based on Cloud Foundry, based on OpenStack. So you get access to everything available on Cloud Foundry. It is flexible. It is cloud-centric platform. It's an integrated. Even the IBM products that we have, such as IBM MQ, WebSphere Liberty, DB2 in terms of SQLDB, those services or those runtimes can also be leveraged using Bluemix, which are not available on Cloud Foundry. Certainly, there is a restriction to the use depending on your payment modes. We'll come to that a little later. So for a developer, it is really a quick result. They don't have to worry about the infrastructure. Just develop and deploy. And then you can have various APIs that are made available through Bluemix for integration to other systems and subsystems. You can leverage those APIs and use it to the best of your requirement in the application that you're working for. So yeah, it certainly supports a polyglot model, and which is fit for purpose programming models and services. So pricing, now with every now here comes a difference. The Cloud Foundry part is OpenStack, and OpenStack is free for everybody. It is open source. But the moment you need to provision that somewhere, and IBM took the task of provisioning Cloud Foundry and OpenStack on their hardware, on software, using software as a base, and then they also wrapped it with or probably added features from IBM products. So IBM products were made available on Cloud Foundry using the wrapper tool, which is Bluemix. So while CLI is the main point of entry for Cloud Foundry, you really do not need you are not forced to actually use CLI for Bluemix. There are multiple ways that you can integrate your applications and deploy your applications on Bluemix. Now, with that flexibility, with that hosted cloud offering, there certainly comes a price to pay, right? So for adoption purposes, IBM has opened up 30-day free trial to access the Bluemix services to anybody and everybody. But then this trial has a limitation on the number of resources that you will use, and we'll see that in a moment. But then you also, if you are an organization who wants to use Bluemix to the fullest possible extent, you can actually pay. You can have a subscription model and define what kind of resources that you would need, and then you pay as you use the services. You can pay as you use the resources, or you can have something called zero to coding, full self-service, right? So which means that you just punch in your credit card numbers over there, and whatever resources you use, the amount gets debited from your card then and there. And then there are the sales cycles wherein you can actually put up a purchase order and get the number of resources or get the right environment for you to work on. And there's another mode. I don't know whether it's covered here. Let me see in the next slide. No, it is not. So there's another mode that that IBM has come up with, which is you define your own stack. So whatever resources you really need in terms of if you need 4 CPU, 8 GB RAM. I am just giving an example. So 4 CPU, 8 GB RAM, and maybe 100 gigs of storage. If you need that kind of environment, they can spin up, and on top of that, you need, let's say, BOSS or DB2 services, or maybe Java runtime, which can be got from plain Java or from WebSphere Liberty runtime, or maybe you need Spring framework made available, which comes by default from Cloud Foundry. So you can actually do a mix match of these kind of resources, and then you have a unique base pricing. So that probably comes up with the sales purchase order option. Okay, coming to the how do we create an account? It's pretty simple. Go to this website. You can register over there. You need to sign up. You need to fill up certain details over there on the website, and get going. So it's free. You can register. I'm hoping that you're already registered and you already have a Bluemix account. So walk through over the console. So you can actually, using Bluemix, you can build your apps using the open source or the IBM BlueStack that is made available. You can use the APIs or the services, and then you can increase the number of instances of your application. You can scale it up, scale it down, and certainly you can manage these applications within the Bluemix tooling. So we'll go through this in a moment. Okay, so let me minimize this, and let's go to the dashboard that I have here. So this is the moment you log in, this is the screen that you would see. Let me see whether you get these are boilerplates. Okay, we talked about pricing options, right? So pricing, you go to the, once you log in, you go to the pricing option. They will actually help you in understanding what kind of pricing options we have. Okay. This is something that you can figure out. What kind of instances you would need Java for IBM. This what is free versus what is medium business, what is large enterprise business, and how does it impact you from the money perspective. So what is free per month, and what are the various runtimes available? We'll go into the details of those in a moment. Okay, so back to presentation. So what do you get? What kind of support do you get from Bluemix? Is you get an instant runtime, which is based on IBM Bluemix runtimes. You get containers, so you actually can use various OS containers. It could be a VM. You can even use a Docker container. You get virtual machines, so access to virtual machines. And then you can use APIs. You can use various APIs for our services, which we'll see when we actually do the browse through on the catalogs and various applications over there in Bluemix. And then the way you can scale up your instances, you can have more than one instances for your application. So integration would mean that you can actually use the various modules over there to integrate, to have a, if you have a dedicated service and you want to expose it on a public cloud, you can use that. And because you get a single development environment, that environment can be used to deploy and manage various apps within Bluemix instance. Okay, so these are various featured solutions that Bluemix provides. It provides mobile solutions for cloud-based mobile apps. You have a hybrid cloud solution, Internet of Things solutions, which actually leverages the data streams and sensors and the APIs exposed for that. So you have an open architecture solutions which are like Spring, like Grails, and then you have cognitive solutions where you actually run business analytics mainly. So you can use those kind of solutions, which these solutions are backed by strong IBM as well as OpenStack software. Let's come to architecture part of it. So Bluemix, as we understand, is based on Cloud Foundry. So IBM actually has had acquired a few years back. They acquired SoftLayer, which was a huge infrastructure as a service provider. And once SoftLayer was with IBM, IBM started with its evolution on Bluemix using Cloud Foundry. So SoftLayer provided the infrastructure, Cloud Foundry was used as the backbone, and Bluemix, using Cloud Foundry, many applications or IBM software were used on or deployed on Cloud Foundry or made available through Cloud Foundry, and then Bluemix UI or interfaces were created, which were accessible through mobile, web applications, application developers, and through command line or through browser mode. Now basic infrastructure is actually handled by the software stack, which can spin off multiple VMs within its resource pools, and those individual VMs can have application managers, individual application managers, and various applications running on that VM. Now you could actually have, and it is actually interfaced by the Bluemix layer, which is where the access is routed, from where the access is routed. Now keep in mind though, from the Bluemix architecture, Bluemix layer, it internally invokes the Cloud Foundry platform. right? So the moment you talk about Cloud Foundry platform, you should recollect the 7 layers of Cloud Foundry, right from routing to logging, or taking the messages out. So all these layers are fit into the Bluemix platform. Bluemix being a wrapper on top of that. So then it can access REST-based calls. It can access HTTP calls through browser or through mobile applications. You have an UI that you can access through a browser. We'll come to that in a moment, and you can have a CLI to talk to Bluemix interface. And internally, the VMs can also work with various hosted services in Bluemix, or those could be external applications, maybe somewhere on the cloud, or maybe somewhere within the organization, not on the cloud. So moving on to the next, I think this is what we talked about. It provides Bluemix provides an application hosting environment, and it internally leverages software which has a huge set of virtual containers, virtual machines that host the pre-built services, pre-built applications, and it could include third-party. Well, don't forget that Cloud Foundry is involved in here. And Bluemix allows the users to interact with its infrastructure using multiple ways. You can have a mobile web app, or you can have a desktop application using CLI. So when we talk about CLI, I just want to make sure that the Cloud Foundry CLI is used for Bluemix as well. It doesn't have a different CLI. So clients can actually connect to Bluemix infrastructure using the REST or HTTP APIs, and when the moment an application is deployed, the deployment, the configuration, management, and staging is actually handled by the Bluemix infrastructure. So they have Bluemix also has a strong support team which works 24/7. So your applications, once hosted, actually go through their monitors as well. So for an application that needs 24/7 uptime, you can choose you can host it on Bluemix using single app mode, or spin off multiple instances to make sure that the application runtime is made available throughout. So over to the next steps. This is another representation of, I would say, the way Bluemix is modeled internally. So you can, via Bluemix, as I was explaining a little bit earlier, via Bluemix you can get yourself provisioned an entire VM if you really care about managing that entire VM and managing the software in that VM, because this is a platform as a service. Or you could actually just say that, okay, we just want these resources and this application to be ready, or this runtime to be ready, so that we can deploy our applications and the related data. So those are possibilities. And if you want to go with the VM approach, Bluemix does provision a VM for you, because it internally works, as I said, on a software which is a known infrastructure as a service provider. Okay, again, some extrapolation of the mobile applications and the web applications. You can read through it. Okay, interesting part. Now, what are the services that we can see on Bluemix that are exposed from Bluemix? Now, if you see these, you might find some of these a repetition of what we learned yesterday on Cloud Foundry. So these are, whatever you see as something as CF star is actually means that these are provided by Cloud Foundry out of the box. And because Bluemix works on top of Cloud Foundry, they are made available to users or developers as well. But apart from it, IBM, as I said, has hosted a bunch of software on Bluemix as services. You log analytics, you can have application performance managers, integration services using Cast Iron. Cast Iron is IBM's cloud offering for integrations, and IBM BPM for workflows, IBM message queue for elastic messaging. And then you have for mobile APIs, you have data APIs to access IBM NoSQL. You can have cloud scripts, you can have mobile data sync, quality management. All these are, and there are more to it. It's not the end of it. There are many services. exposed on top of it. So you have from the data management side, as you see, MongoDB MySQL is provided by Cloud Foundry as by default, but then IBM DB2 is provisioned using SQL. It's called SQLDB. Now data APIs for IBM NoSQL are made available. Postgres is again Cloud Foundry enabled. So, but then you have Object Store, or you can have CloudHunt, which is IBM's. We'll talk about CloudHunt in a bit, but we have a data snapshot, backup, and recovery that is provided by IBM as data management services. From the website, you actually web resources part of it. The various runtimes that IBM Bluemix provides are Java using IBM Liberty. Liberty is a light version of WebSphere application server. It is WebSphere Liberty, but it's a lighter version. It is more. It performs better than any lightweight web container. Ruby, PHP, JavaScript. These are something that are provided by certainly Cloud Foundry by default, including Tomcat and Redis. But caching, IBM uses extreme scale cache for providing caching services. Moving on to next, so this is there is a differentiator that IBM has brought in using Bluemix. So because Bluemix is not just a PaaS environment, you can host your SaaS offerings via Bluemix. It is a complete package. It is not just the Cloud Foundry. It is not just the OpenStack that IBM exposes on its hardware or on software. It is the entire scalable, performant and service, wide range of services that IBM provides using Bluemix. Certainly, it includes the ones that that are bundled with Cloud Foundry, but you get to think of it, you actually get almost all required software for your application, for getting your application runtime and for getting the persistence layer, even using, if you really want to use IBM stack for that matter. So that is the beauty of Bluemix part of it. And while all these are provisioned as services, you can connect your application via the services and integrate seamlessly. For example would be the Watson, IBM Watson, which is an analytics. It runs on the analytics part. If you really want to run analytics on your data, you can use Watson. On the decision services using operational decision manager business rules, IBM has exposed those business rules in a set of unique services on top of Bluemix. You can use that. And certainly the Devops and monitoring and analytical services, which actually are required for any organization running on cloud and running software on cloud. The performance and scalability aspects are handled by software, and then certainly you are backed by a strong team of IBMers who actually work 24/7 to make sure that your apps and services are available and can be scaled up and scaled down in a matter of seconds via Bluemix. Okay, so this takes us to our first lab. So what we are going to do is we create an account. So this is something we are going to do, and we will try basic application using Node.js and MySQL. So what we're going to do is we are going to create an account in Bluemix. So this is something that I'm hoping that you have already done, and I'll log in. I've already logged in to my account today, and this is something that you need to select as a region. There are three regions currently made available: US, UK, and Sydney in Australia. And we create a test application in Cloud Foundry app, and then we will upload a Node.js application using MySQL services and using command line. So let's look at the details of those this lab. Okay, I guess before we go through the lab, let's understand few of the commands that we will need to use. So what we do, CF is the short form for Cloud Foundry, and when we install command line interface CLI for IBM from the link that you have already seen in pre-class or a prereq for there was a document exposed as prereq for the Bluemix classes. So that contained a link wherein you could download the command line interface. So let me take you there first so that we understand what we are talking. So this is the location in the GitHub wherein you can download CLI. So based on what kind of environment you're using, what kind of OS you're using, you can actually download the installers directly. If you want to play around with the libraries or binaries, you can actually use them a little later. So I'm using a Windows environment, 64-bit, so I've downloaded Windows 64-bit, and it's just simple. You download it and then run that exe file, and CLI gets provisioned for you. Okay, I would need to share this. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm hoping that you're seeing my screen entirely now, and this is the CLI. This is the command line interface. Let's go back to the session. Okay, so CF-V would tell me the version. So I have CF installed. If you just say CF, it gives you the bunch of features or bunch of options that you can work with. So we will just say CF-V. This gives me the version. So the version that I'm using is 6.2.1, and that's what was made available on GitHub. So you can say, you can use the login. We will do these things a little later, but what this slide talks about is the various commands that you need to get yourself familiar with. Version, use CF-V. If you want to connect through CLI, use CF-A and give the URL https://api.ng.bluemix.net. You do a login. When you say login, you have to enter your credentials, login credentials, and then when you do a deploy, you actually do use CF push, and this uses the name mentioned in the manifest file. We'll see what manifest file is and how does it, what does it look like, and we do a push from the application. So while doing after doing a push, only the application data is moved to Cloud Foundry, and then you can actually use CF to bind a service with the app name. So you define a service name and you use the app name and to bind the service with the app name. So these are basic CF commands. So you can use it in any Cloud Foundry, not only on Bluemix. Okay, so exercise 1, node.js application my SQL uploader. So let's figure out where it is. So okay, these are some kind of prerequisites that we need to understand. The very first one is that we should have CLI installed. We can create an application skeleton selecting framework, type application, web, mobile, give the name to that application that has to be created. We have the option to download the starter code as soon as the application is created. For this exercise, this is not required because we will probably download the code which is readily available. We'll use the CLI. We can deploy the code. We can integrate the code which is created using the dashboard. We'll see all these steps. Don't worry about it, and we'll push the code. So let's see. Okay, let's see where we can actually create an app. Okay. So we go to web app. We'll go step by step to understand what it needs to be, what needs to be done. So you are here. Let's go to dashboard. Okay. So we are in dashboard. The moment you log in, you actually come over here. So and while you create your account, it asks you to create an organization. It asks you to create a space, right? So I have created the organization as Edureka instructor. I have created a space by name Bluemix class. An organization can have multiple spaces. So basically every user has to belong to an organization, and then an organization will have a role, and every role will define a space. So this is something, this is truly Cloud Foundry based model. And once you create a space for yourself, whatever application you create gets created under this space. So application will get any app that we create will get associated with the space Bluemix class. The services that we create will get associated with Bluemix class as well, and various other things like containers or virtual services. So now here is something that I would like you to focus on. Because this is a free account, a 30-day trial account, what is provisioned by default is over here, right? So you get from Cloud Foundry apps, you can get only 2 GB maximum if you're using an app. If you go for containers, you actually can get maximum 2 GB. Virtual servers, you cannot get anything on on a 30-day trial, and this is already on a beta mode. Data analytics, we'll see what kind of operations we can do using that in a little later. And the APIs, we can use at most 10 services or APIs in our connection. So today we will probably use the app the most, and the service. We'll try to bind it to a service. So while creating an app, click on, just a moment, I probably was a little too fast. So while we now need to create an app on Cloud Foundry using Bluemix, right? We'll hit on the create app button over here, and then we get to choose what kind of app are we really wanting to create, a web app or a mobile app. So we'll go with the web app, and then it asks you what do you want to get started with. Do you want to get started with a Liberty environment, a Node.js environment, or all the other environments made available, right? So Liberty environment for Java is made available by IBM, and Node.js is another. This is an open stack, so it should be made available from Cloud Foundry, like Ruby or Tomcat or PHP or Python. So I guess our example is meant for Node.js, but let's confirm that. Okay, so yeah, so let's go back to the dashboard. So we'll go to Node.js, SDK for Node.js, right? We'll choose that, and then we'll say okay. So it says 375 GB hours is free for the first one that we have. So we'll say continue. Now is the name. So we can give, let's follow whatever is mentioned over here. We can follow anything, but or let's say our first test application. Okay. So we just click on finish. Okay. This is an error on the services. So I think there's an issue with the Node.js service. Let me close it off. Let's try a different thing. So I'll try Java. Say continue. Java app. That's interesting. So we may not be able to complete the Node.js app example as given in the course content, but we can actually use the Java app. So you see a set of things that actually started over here, right? So let's go through that. So it doesn't really matter whether we use a Node.js app for our demo today or a Java app for our demo today. What we mean to do is to make ourselves familiar with the runtimes or the application deployment and runtime of Bluemix. In our subsequent classes, we will take up specific examples for our applications and run through that. So remember the steps that we did. We actually created a login for Bluemix. Okay. When we created a login, it prompted us to create an organization. We gave a name to our login. We associated our login with an organization name. The moment the organization is created, it asks for us for a space under which we would need to create the apps. We created the space, and from the space, every app that we create, like this first test Java app, we actually gets associated to the space that we created. So what we did while creating the space, okay, so what did we do for creating the space? We selected what is the we selected create app in Cloud Foundry. That was the first option. We went ahead and chose what kind of environment do we need, the runtime environment. We gave the name to the app, and then the moment you hit the next, your application is ready, right? So it just says that okay, your application is deployed. So you see the running of the application here. First test app.mybluemix.net. Now anything that you provide or any code that you attach to this application can be coded over here. It just says you that okay, you can use the Eclipse tool for coding, or you can use command line to actually run your code locally and then probably push it to Bluemix, or you can use Git. Git is, it is a distributed cloud-based code storage and development environment. It is a CVS kind of. It is a repository from where you actually can code locally and upload it to Git and make it available to everybody, right? Anybody and everybody who has access to Git, and you provide access to those users. Those users can have, they can sync the code that you have published onto Git and start using it. So let's go into the details of what we have done, and let me take it out of this. Okay, so overview of this application is that, okay, let's I'm in my application and I hit the overview button, and let's see what it means. It says that you have one instance of of this application which is using 512 gigs of MBs of memory, and this is the available memory that you have today. And what did it do as the application as Liberty for Java? What did it do? What are the number of instances? It says that there are 0 instances running. There are, this is the memory usage currently because this is taken by the Liberty container out of 512, and this is the disk space usage. You can only use up to the max of 1 GB, and the moment you actually start running these instances, you can assign more number of resources to it. So these are what are the files that we have. I don't think we have any files because we have not pushed any application on top of it. These are default files that are actually provisioned by the moment you create an app. So don't worry about these files. But if we talk about our app, our code should actually come over here, and we'll see that in a moment. The logs actually talk about what has happened in while starting this app. All the logs are over here. You can access the logs and understand what has happened during the deployment of the application. So supposing there's an issue in the deployment and you really want to figure out where to fix it, you can go through the logs over here. Environment variables. Now these are, we will understand these environment variables in a better manner when we associate services with our application. And then the final one is, do you want to start coding? Now as I explained earlier, there are multiple ways that you can start your coding. You can use Eclipse, you can use command line interface to CF to push the local code into your application. You can use Git. You can download from Git and use that. So now here is something like download starter code. Now let's see. Let's extract this on. Okay, that's okay. Extract it there. Now POM is, this is a Maven driven build, so that's why you have a POM file, pom.xml. Manifest.yml is something that I would want to. Let's choose Notepad to open up this file. So here you see that the path is this is the hello world war file that has been, this is the YML file, manifest YML file. What it does is it actually gives the war file name of the application. It gives the memory allocation for the application, number of instances, and what is the domain used, and where will this application be hosted as. So what we can do is we can actually deploy this application directly from CLI. So instead of the Node.js application, we are trying with a Java-based application. So we already have CLI, so don't worry about it. The next step would be to connect to CLI using the login. So okay, so this is the GitHub for MySQL node uploader, which was the example that was given over here. So let's try to do all this. We'll kind of work on using login through CLI and then push the application. So now we have to go through the login. We will use CLI to actually log into Bluemix. So what I've done that already. So what you need to do is you just go to the Bluemix. You need to go through the CLI command and just say CF. So CF, which is Cloud Foundry login. The API endpoint will by default be api.ng.bluemix.net, and then you actually give the email ID using which you have registered at Bluemix, and then certainly the password, and the moment you actually do that, you will get the organization and the space. So once you do that, we have to push an application to Bluemix. So just remember that manifest.yml file which we create for any app will internally make it very seamless for us to deploy an app into Bluemix. So you can do without this YML file, manifest file, but then you will have to do you will have to associate the services manually in, or bind the services manually in using the Bluemix UI, or probably using the command. So let's try to do at least this part, creating let me pull this. Yeah, so pushing the application. So before that, if you go to the download, the place where we have downloaded this first test Java app, you open the manifest.yml file, and this is the name of the application that we have. Copy this name and then come over here and just say cf push first test Java app. So remember that you have to be in the location. You have to be at the location where you have downloaded this sample Java application from Bluemix. Okay, so wherever you have downloaded it and extracted it, go to that place. In over there you would actually see the structure like this. You will have source, which has a Java app, which has this is all simple servlet.java. This is a sample Java application that they have provided out of the box, and it has a bunch of things. Apart from that, we will not go through all these, but manifest.yml is a file that interests us the most, and this contains the target application target, where exactly the war file is to be deployed. Just see over here in target you have Java hello world app.war file. That is a location of your WAR file. The memory allocation for this application, the number of instances, you can say multiple over here. You can say 2, 3, or 4, whatever you want. And the domain would be mybluemix.net, and then this is the name of the application. This is the host, and this quota can be maximum of 1024, and that's what you are allowed to use on Bluemix. Okay, with that, let's try to push this application. So we'll say cf push. You just pay attention to what it does. It actually says that you're using the manifest file to push this application, which is first test app.java in organization Edureka instructor, the space, and the Bluemix class. And now it just says that, okay, the pointer. Now this is all what it does, right? And this is the root. This is the routing. Remember the Cloud Foundry routing part of it. So it routes to the first test Java app, and then it uploads. It creates a root first.java app.mybluemix.net, and it uploads the Java app there. It uploads these files in an unzipped format, and then once the upload is done, it stops the app first, because that app was already created in Bluemix. It stops the app first and then starts it again. When it starts it again, it actually downloads the package and does the build pack. Now all this part is something that is done by the Cloud Foundry. So now after the build pack and droplet execution agent, everything is done, you please take note of the way it tries to instantiate an instance. So it starts running the instance and finally says that, okay, the application has been started. Then it does an internal check on the health of the application and sees whether that is really running or not. So it says the application is started. So these are all the information that you actually get through CF. You get the similar kind of information in Bluemix logs as well. So it says, okay, the state of the application finally is running. It has been running since this. This is the CPU percentage utilized, this is the memory, this is the disk. And now let's actually go back and see what was in the app. So we can go back to the dashboard, go back to our overview, and this is the application path. I think this is the same as the path that we have here. See that? The path you see over here, my first test. So my first test app.mybluemix.net is the URL that we would need to hit. So let's do that. Okay, there you go. So this is the application that you have hosted. It's just a sample application, and using this application, using this sample application, sample code, you have successfully deployed the application on Bluemix, and it is up and running. So now let's go and see the Bluemix side of it, right? So let's see the overview. Okay, so you have one application running. Let's see the files. Now these are the instance details. We certainly don't have any binding services to it, and that completes our deployment of first application. Okay, so let's go back to instructions part of it. Okay, what we did is this is when we'll go through this when in our class wherein we can actually bind a service, because this sample application that we downloaded from Bluemix directly, the Java application, did not have a service associated with it. we can just skip this part for now. And in fact, you don't really have to do all this if you declare the services in your manifest file. Now the intent of this slide or this part is actually to make sure or make you aware that if you do not use manifest.yml file for defining your application data and defining the binding services for your application, you can still go ahead and create those services and attach those services to the application from Cloud Foundry. Okay. So the three commands that you would use are CF create service. You give the service name, what is the service name, and what is the service, and then you say 100 is the memory requirement, and then you say the name of the service. Then you actually push your application again. You say that you are not providing your manifest and say that okay, this is the application. Then you bind your application. You say CF bind service application with the service. Very three simple steps, and then you start your application. So that takes care of the complete part of it. And this is something that we already saw. Okay, so the moment app gets started, the various logs that get printed on the console. Okay, now this is a pictorial presentation of the app and the Node.js app that we talked about. So it just says that okay, the application is my application is hosted in Bluemix, and it talks to the service that is a MySQL service. And if you just want to open it up, you can click on the URL over here, and it allows you to interact with the persistence layer. We will develop more applications in our future classes. Okay, so this is the output, so let's skip that. So that takes us to the end of this sessions, and we can break for questions if any, or let me also talk about the assignments. You certainly will have to install the CLI, command line interface, for Cloud Foundry if you're not already done that. And you can use any of the application. You can use your own Java code if you want. You can use a sample starter code. Try to just use a sample and push that sample using the CF commands that we learned today. And if you need to know more about the CF commands, you can just say CF on your command prompt, and it lists the number of options that you have for login, for pushing in application, for starting, stopping, managing applications right from command line. So that would be your assignment for today. And then well, this is something that you would need to cover through, so before you work for the next module. So what did we learn today? Before I actually move to what would we learn in the next module, it's important to summarize what we learned today. We learned, apart from the basics of Cloud Foundry, we learned how IBM Bluemix leverages Cloud Foundry and what kind of benefits IBM Bluemix provides on top of the existing software being made available using Cloud Foundry, and the IBM stack, IBM runtimes, IBM and data persistence layers, IBM analytics, IBM mobile applications, which are key differentiators between various cloud offer of service providers and IBM. We also learned about CLI, command line interface for Bluemix, and the place from where we can download it. At the same time, we also explored an option of downloading the starter Java code using creating our own login, and then we also we would need to create an organization, create our own working space, and wherein we would actually deploy our apps. Now, two ways of deploying apps. One is that you create the app locally and then push those apps directly into Bluemix using CLI. Then you again have two variations to that, which would be the using manifest.yml file, wherein you would define all the parameters required for the application var file, the memory, and the name of the application, the host name, and the the disk space, what you can utilize. And if it has a service associated with it, you can use the service name over there. But before you actually push this application, you will have to create the service. And another approach would be to you just don't care about the service now, but maybe later down the line you really want a service to be attached to this application, then you create the service, then attach the service to the application and re-push the application using CLI. And the management consoles on Bluemix actually help you understand the various aspects of where you can control or see various applications that you have started on your account. So that takes us to the end of our session today. So again, just a reminder, please make sure of three things. One, you fill up the feedback form, which will help us do better and meet your expectations. Number two, kindly make sure that you go through the quiz as well as the assignment slated for today. So these are over here. I'll take you there in a moment. And then any prereqs that you would need to handle before you join the next class. Thank you very much, and you guys have a wonderful time. But before we exit the class, I would like to take you to the module 2. This is the place wherein you have the presentation and quiz, assignment, and assignment solution. So before your next class, please make sure that you complete these, and we can move on to the Java-based application deployment and management on Bluemix in our next class. With that, thank you very much, and you guys have a wonderful time. Bye.